And we are live, but we're just showing.
Ready? Give me a sign. Hey everybody, welcome to Harmony Spiritual Center's Amateur Hour Cooking Show. And if you want to know where the name Honey Pat came from, it's my grandma's name. So the first thing we're going to cook today is the 3 salads, is the old family recipe that I don't even remember how far back it goes. But my ancestors came from Denmark about just after the Civil War, my great-grandparents. So this is the Danish version of something you've eaten everywhere that you can go. It's a dressing with cucumbers, onions, dill, salt, and pepper. Now, I have to tell you this story about how my Danish grandparents got here. It seems as though in Denmark that when somebody's husband passed away, the wife typically married the farmhand so that it was practical, there was continuity. So my great-grandfather was a young farmhand, and there was a middle-aged wife and an elderly husband. And the husband died, so he married the middle-aged wife. And the story thickens. It seems as though a young housemaid came to work there. And my great-grandfather and the young housemaid fell in love and escaped to the new world of America, leaving behind the still married older lady. So my grandfather was not like the immigrants today, escaping danger. Well, maybe he was. He was escaping his wife that he was still married to. But I think about that. If it weren't for them immigrating to the United States, I wouldn't be here in this luxurious kitchen cooking for you all. Now think about the immigrants today. Who among them might be a Nobel Prize winner? But that's just me. So we're going to slice up the cucumbers as thin as we can. Now we're going to make the dressing. This is about a half a cup of sour cream. This is sugar. Looks like about 2 tablespoons. An equal amount of white vinegar. And at this point, if you have dill in your garden, you can put the dill in there from the garden. If not, you can throw a little dried dill in there. It's just as good. However, I'm going to chop up dill from my garden. It smells so good. There. So we got in this a little mixture of dry dill and fresh dill. And we're going to beat that up until it gets really smooth. Add a little salt and pepper. I'm sure you've had this in every Luby's cafeteria, minus the dill, or at your covered dish dinner at your grandmother's house. Everybody uses this recipe. Now we're going to slice an onion really, really, really thin and put a little bit of a onion into this. My great-grandfather, he's the one I talked about in church, is signing letters to his grandchildren. 100 million kisses. His name was Hans Matthiesen. And then my great-grandmother's name was Anna. The other things that I remember about the Danish cooking of my grandmother, they did love a lot of fish things, but they also had a really sweet tooth. And when I was little and spent time with my grandmother, we would have a meal of apple pie and cream. There you are. The very famous Danish cucumber salad. And now for the watermelon salad. You clean up my board. This is really good. We already peeled the cucumber, but we're going to scoop out the seeds into my scrap dish because all this goes back into the garden for compost. There. Cut that up into little cubes. I already have the cantaloupe and the watermelon cut up. And you've got pictures of this on the Facebook page and the recipe. You can see that I already have some cantaloupe cut up, some more cucumber. Now, if you're making this at home, you can adjust the amounts. I used one of these personal size watermelons. It's sliced the rind off of it and chopped it up. And here we have the chopped up watermelon, so we're going to add some of that into this dish. At this point, if you're cooking this ahead of time, this is when you stop. And you can refrigerate it because you're going to be putting onions in here, and you don't want the onions to be so strong that it alters the taste of everything. So let's get a plate. And we're going to assemble this. If you're taking this to covered dish dinner, you can put the onions in a bag and the feta cheese aside and do the dressing and the everything else on site. But to store it, you just leave it at this. So let's just put some of that on the plate. Jim Koval is here filming me, so he gets to eat this when we're all through. Now, what I did, because I don't like for the onions to have such a bite that it distracts from the dish, so I soaked the onions in a little water, ice water, and cover that up in the refrigerator. Now they're nice and crisp and more mild. And now the dressing is this: a little bit of olive oil, and a balsamic vinegar reduction. So it's sort of syrupy and a little bit sweet and a little bit tart. So we put that on there. And squirt a little of this balsamic reduction. Andrew Williams, if you're watching, you're the one that turned me on to balsamic vinegar. And if you're not watching, I'm going to call you up and tell you to watch. And a little feta cheese. Now, if you're taking that to cover this dinner, you just do all this just before it's served. But there you have the watermelon salad with sliced purple onions and feta cheese and the dressing. And now we are going to do the tomato and mozzarella cheese, or you could do provolone cheese with some basil. But the thing that makes this different than what you're usually getting at the restaurant or at your friend's house is the dressing. It's not a secret, but it's my made-up recipe. So let's just slice up the tomatoes. And if you're going to put the cheese on there, you want the cheese to be the same size as your tomatoes. So the tomatoes that I got at the farmer's market are reasonably small. So we quartered the slices of mozzarella cheese. So I got these at the Cowtown Farmer's Market. So we're going to slice up a couple of those. These are nice that you can put them on a big platter and really get some good sized tomatoes. And it makes a gorgeous plate. So we're going to arrange the tomatoes, alternating with the cheese. You've seen this 1,000 times. It's tomato season, so you should be able to get some really big, pretty tomatoes at the farmer's market. Now this is what we're going to do to get the basil on there. We're going to chiffonade some basil, which is you stack the leaves up where they're all curling in the same direction, and then you roll them up like a little cigar, like that. And slice them in thin slices. And now we're going to make the dressing. I have my blender over here. This is a healthy dressing too. The whole dish is healthy. You put in a handful of basil, 1 garlic clove, in order to help it munch up better in the blender, I chopped it up a little bit. And then we're going to put in some yogurt. That looks like about 2/3 of a cup. Some salt. Some pepper. Excuse the noise. And pour it in some kind of a serving container. Top it with your chiffonade basil leaves. A little more salt and pepper, I think. Voila! 3rd salad. And we're done. I hope you enjoyed all of this. When church really starts up again, be sure and be there on Covered Dish Sundays. Bon appetit, and we love you so much. Bye-bye.